I'm going to keep this simple to begin with. We're just going to import one Synty Studio asset, and I'm going to show you basically the things that we'll need to change and modify for it to work well with our with A-frame or Three.js. So I'm going to go to import. I'm going to import the FBX versions. Basically, this is the source file that you find when you download your asset pack. So I'm just going to go into the source file here. I'm going to go into FBX, and I'm going to pick something. I'm going to pick one of these consoles here. I'm just going to import it. And what I'm going to do is I have a preset here for static meshes. You can see that down here at the bottom. So if I click on that, then you can see the settings that I have for importing these static meshes. So let's import that. There we go. And let's just center up. Yeah, it's two consoles. This will make it a little interesting the way it's spaced apart here. But anyway, let's click on materials and we can see that it's pink. That means it doesn't know where the texture map is. So the first thing that we're going to look at, though, before we even get into the texture, so I'm going to hit N as in Nancy, or I can hit this little arrow thing here to bring out the tab. And I'm going to go look at, let's make sure I have the object selected, the item. And there's things I want you to see here. First of all, you see there's a rotation of 90 degrees on the x-axis. But almost more importantly, we see that there's actually scale has been applied to these objects too. And for most purposes, we really don't want that to be set to, like in this case, 0.01. This is probably meant more for Unity and not for Three.js or A-frame. So we're going to fix both the rotation and the scale. And then what we'll do is we'll work on doing the material. So I'm going to hit apply. So this is Control A. It brings up my dialog box here. I can do all the transforms, or I can just simply do rotation and scale, which is basically what we're trying to affect here. So if I click that and you look at the panel there, you see everything has been set. This is all 1, which is exactly what we want. And everything's been set to 0 here in the rotation. So now this is our, what we call it, home position for everything. So that's good. So we've got that. Now we need to actually fix the material. So let's click on the material tab here. And we can see there actually is a material named here, but what's happening, of course, is that it's not pointing towards the texture map. So let's go into shading. And again, what we'll do is I'll just center this stuff up so we can see this. And then I'll zoom out on this. And really what we want is this guy right here. So let me click off. Oops. This always does make me struggle a bit at times. Here we go. So what we're going to do is just hit on the click on the folder tab. And we're going to go into that pack that I have here. I'm going to go into the source files, and we'll go into textures. And there's a whole whack here, but the one that we really want here is just the base texture that is applied to all the models. So in this case, we're going to click on this one, which is happily sitting at the bottom for us. I'm going to hit open. And there we go. You can see our texture has been applied. If I hit period key and you look at the model, that is looking great. So we go back to layout, and that is really all the steps that we need to take to get our model looking good and being usable within Blender, and of course when we export to being useful inside of A-frame or Three.js. But we don't want to be doing this for every single asset. We're not going to do this one at a time. What would be ideal is that we can do this for multiple files, do it quickly. So that's why I wanted to show you this, what the basic steps were. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hit new. Just going to hit new, go to general. I'm not going to save that. Then we're going to go back to our file. We're going to go import FBX. Go back to our files again. And I'm going to select everything down to, I'm going to do all these up to the beds. There we go. So I'm going to select all these. Again, I'm going to go with my preset, static meshes, do an import. And there they all are. Excellent. And then I'm going to go for materials. And you can see some of them do have the materials, but there are ones in there that are that magenta color. I'm going to hide the roof so you can see, in fact, the consoles and everything don't seem to have a texture attached. So let's just bring back the ceiling. So what I'm going to do, if we actually, with just the ceiling selected, I open up this panel again, you can see that we have that rotation issue and the scaling issue. So what I'm going to do is do A to select everything. And then what I'm going to do is apply those rotation and scale to all the objects at once. So we do that. So now all our objects have been correctly oriented. In other words, it's all been set to a home position of rotation 0, 0, 0, and our scale is 1, 1, 1. Perfect. Now what we want to do is we want to take a look at this guy and see what his texture is. There it is, sci-fi 1. And we're going to fix him first before we actually do anything else. So we're going to go into shading. Just zoom out a little bit here. And again, just look at this here. We can see it's file 9.001, which is okay. We don't want that. We actually want a texture. So we're going to look in here, and these are the multiple textures, which we don't want. These are the alts. So we're just going to go back into our texture folder, grab that 01_A, open it. There we go. So we have that done. So we're going to go back to our layout. Again, I'm going to hide this ceiling so you can see the magenta underneath. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to select all. And what you'll see is because I started with the ceiling panel selected, this is the one that we actually created the material. It's actually highlighted in the inspector here. So everything else is selected, but this one is actually the target one. So what I'm going to do now is tell every other object basically to link the material from this ceiling to all the other objects. So I'm going to do that by going Control L. And you see here I can do link object data, blah, blah, but I want this one, link materials. And when I click that, voila. Now everything has a material. Let's hide that ceiling. And now you can see all of the panels and consoles. Everything has a texture. There's no magenta pieces in there anymore. And that's basically what we do to prep more than a single asset from a Synty Studio package and make it ready for our use in Three.js or in A-frame. Next video, I'll go over how we can basically export these and then bring those into A-frame.